minutes, but I think we'll try and do it a little quicker since I didn't get to the bathroom. I do want to thank Linda. Is Linda here? Linda Hobbs, who brought me down here. I've got my new book on MOOCs and open education around the world. I have extra copies for those that come to the afternoon session for questions I get asked. I've got that book and my World is Open book and my new book, this MOOCs book and the one in between. Larry Brown is here. Larry, you want to stand up? Larry hired me 23 years ago at Indiana University, and he happened to just move to Carbondale. And I have my new MOOCs book for you, Larry. We'll talk about it later on, and I want you to read the whole thing between now and then. We're going to have dinner or something later today. It's great to see Larry here. We have one of the best educational psychology and now learning science programs in the country. And I was a member of it and still am, and then moseyed over to instructional systems technology a decade ago, exactly a decade ago, which is one of the top programs in instructional systems technology in the world. I have the fortune of working with some great graduate students from all over the world. So many of the ideas that are part of my talks really come from them and their experiences, and I learned from them. And I spent most of the month of June in China, giving 18 talks at 12 universities in 6 cities. And kind of went crazy, but I learned a lot from them. I'm going to show you a few things I learned in China. I'm going to show you the MOOCs building in China. They've renamed it gigantic building, the MOOCs building. They've equated MOOCs with e-learning in China. They've gone from 690 companies in educational technology a year ago to over 1,000 today. Their investment in educational technology has increased 700% in 1 year. I interviewed a number of founders, innovators in the high-tech field while I was there my last day, actually, in Beijing. It's incredible what's going on in China right now in the field of educational technology and learning with technology. Now, this talk is called Living in Tech City. I kind of renamed what you see in the handout there, but Living in Tech City, 50 technologies that transform your work and life and so forth. If you think about it, the big part of Tech City today is education. The big place that we go to are educational spaces. When we go to Best Buy, we're buying educational technologies today for us to use. When we go to the Apple Store, your iPad and iPhone are now educational devices, not just consumer devices, educational devices. We are living in the learning century. In about 40 years, we'll maybe recognize we're living in the learning century, but that's where we are today. We're part of a new age, in effect. And it's exciting to be here, because there's many things we can talk about on panels like before. And by the way, I used to be a budget director. I'm a former accountant for CPA in my old life, so I caught the early jokes about going to the budget director of the IT. But I was kicked out of there, and I ended up in the field of education. I'm a product, and maybe I'll mention this in a little bit, but I'm a product of what's going on today. Blended learning, e-learning, all this TV-based learning correspondence. I was a board accountant or a CPA, and I had to take TV and correspondence courses to get into graduate school, because I had no psychology as an undergraduate. Basically, new forms of instruction changed my life. And today we can debate test scores and dropout rates in these classes that are online, but people's lives are being changed. I've interviewed a number of people. My newest articles are about life change. It's not just about test scores, not just about retention rates, it's about changing people's lives. My life changed. I know the face-to-face course would have been better than my correspondence course. I know I would have learned maybe 1 or 2 more things, but my life would have changed. I had no time to take those courses. My only time was correspondence and television, and some courses at night school and so forth. Now we're moving into this age of the log-on degree, as you can see there. Now, how many of you would say that technology has changed your lives? Just in the past week, probably. But you don't realize that this gentleman and this gentleman are to thank for much of that. Now, how many of you remember 9/11? It's a significant day in your life. How many remember 4/11? You see, on 4/11, Charles Vest here said, let's make education free to the world. On 4/11, April 4th, 2001, a few months before 9/11, 40 years almost to the day that JFK talked about getting a man on the moon, we got into not distant space, but virtual spaces. We weren't sending men to the moon anymore. We were sending people to the internet to learn. And he brought us phase 2. You see, April 4th, 1994, exactly 7 years to the day before that, Netscape went public. So here in Illinois, people were happy. Maybe a few venture capitalists here in Illinois because of Netscape going public. But April 4th brought us portals, information. April 4th, 1994. April 4th, 2001 brought us open education. He opened the world to education. I sent my resume to him the next day, volunteering. Well, Larry doesn't know this. I sent him a resume to be the director of the program for open courseware. He never responded. I don't know. Now, they have sponsored some research I just finished. You can go to my homepage. This talk is up at trainingshare.com. Trainingshare, one word. And my papers are at publicationshare.com because you have to believe in the power of sharing. So I did a research recently on the achievements and goals and the challenges of people using OpenCourseWare from MIT. MIT sponsored it, and it's now an open access article. Anyhow, this gentleman over here changed my life at Wisconsin. I went to Wisconsin. I never met him, unfortunately. He was talking about blended learning in the 1960s. He was the crazy man in the 1950s talking about satellite television. He was the person who helped create the OpenU in the UK because Wisconsin people didn't like his ideas at the time. They now have the flexible learning degree, right? Well, he is the man who went off to the UK and helped create the OpenU and brought it back to Wisconsin and helped create outreach and extension. I learned through outreach and extension. I got out of accounting because of what he did. His name is Charles Wiedemeyer. And right now I should be up at Madison because it's the annual Distance Teaching and Learning Conference that celebrates Wiedemeyer. And the Wiedemeyer Awards, the 31st annual right now, going on today. I was there last year. Highly recommend. It's probably the best conference you can go to in the summer other than coming to IT Day here in Carbondale. It's beautiful in Madison in the summer. In August, it's the only month to go. But it's on Lake Monona, right, Wright Terrace, and so forth. Beautiful place. Anyhow, Wiedemeyer's book, Learning at the Back Door, is the best book you can buy for $1 on Amazon Used. And every sentence is quotable. It's all about learning as an adult, moving away from eyeball to eyeball, learning ear pan to ear pan to anything else. See, he transformed our lives. You might not recognize these people. Charles Nesta, unfortunately, died a year and a half ago. Charles Wiedemeyer more than a decade ago. But we need their vision today. We need visionaries today. What the field of educational technology lacks today are visionaries and people pushing the edges of where we are going. But we need to thank the people of the past, talking about blended learning in the 1960s and so forth. And if you want to read about a lot of folks, don't read Steve Jobs' biography, which Walter Isaacson wrote, or the Benjamin Franklin, which he also wrote, or the Einstein book. Read this book. It's his best book that he wrote. When Steve Jobs was dying, he pulled him away from writing this book, but he got back to it. The Innovators, a group of hackers, geniuses, and geeks, created the digital revolution. You want to find out about the first programmers who were women. You know, men thought it was meaningless, so they let women become programmers, right? Early on, Ada Lovelace and others were the programmers of the world. Read about the evolution of technology over 200 years. It's a fascinating book. It's a fascinating book. The 60s were fascinating for educational technology, right? We talk about learning, Education 1.0. I learned through Education 1.0, correspondence courses, television courses, phonograph and radio. Sure, I remember audio tapes I listened to in my room. Still do. I finished the Singularity book on the way here. In fact, just as I drove into Carbondale last night, I was listening to The Singularity by Ray Kurzweil. Well, you've read this book. Well beyond my brain, but maybe you can probably understand it. You're an IU grad, right? Yeah, okay. So, we've gone through many evolutions of technology over time. And we'll continue to go through many evolutions in the next decades that are coming up. But we have to look at the past and the technology age we're living in. This was living in Tech City some time ago, right? And this was social networking some time ago, right? We've rotated into new forms of social networking today. This actually comes out of last week's Chronicle of Higher Education. If you read the Chronicle, how many saw this in the Chronicle last week? Mimeograph, massive open mimeograph machines. Ditto machines, ink all over your hands. I remember those machines. Massive open radio courses. At Wisconsin, they had radio courses in economics and in agriculture and in typing. And this woman's checking to see if the airwaves are operational so that they can get this out to the masses of people in Wisconsin. Before they had the current governor, they actually did believe in getting education out to the people of the state. They no longer believe in that, but that's okay. Back in the day, they did. Progressive La Follette education of the time. Yeah, things are different today. I guess things are being cut here too, from what I understand. Radio courses. We've been doing massive education for a long time. We just have this new word called MOOCs, and people get all frightened about it. Prehistoric Googling, I remember this. I went to the University of Wisconsin Whitewater as an undergraduate, and I remember prehistoric Googling very well. How many of you went to Indiana University, by the way, for a degree? Anybody? Yeah, just the gentleman in the business school, okay? If you came to Indiana about 30 years ago, you would have been able to take a course in Overhead Projector 101 and Overhead Projector 102, and Mike Melinda would let you know how to turn on and off the projector to save the light bulb. We've come a long way in educational technology since those times. But you know, we've got these floppy disks. You got your zip disks. How many of you remember your floppy disks? You're certified the old people. Okay. Punch cards. I took basic programming 3 times, went in this year and out the other one. And you know, zip disks. Lost all of my dissertation data on a few of these zip disks when I did my research. DOS wouldn't handle more than 120 files at a time. I learned a lesson. I learned how to use utilities to patch back up those files. I was collecting keystroke data of kids writing at the time. Fascinating. Well, we've come a long ways from these technologies. I was stuck in the cube farms of Milwaukee as an accountant. And every day was the same old day.
Computer status report.
Groundhog Day. But distance learning changed my life. Distance learning got me out. I wouldn't be here today talking about the evolutions of technology without having been a product of distance learning. Think about the people today who are learning online around the world from MIT courses that Charles Vest put up on 411. Where I was in China, people are translating those contents free to the world. My best friend, well, one of my friends who I talk about in my World is Open book, his name is Lucifer. Now, I'm Catholic, my auntie's a nun, they're a little worried about me. I have a friend named Lucifer, but Lucifer Chu translated Lord of the Rings before the Lord of the Rings movie came out and made $1 million at age 26. He took half of that million in translating MIT courses free to the world for all people in Taiwan, where he's from, traditional Chinese, as well as simplified Chinese. He's changing the world. There are many people out there who are helping change the world of education through acts like that. We have Education 2.0. We're supposed to help personalize the learning process. Now, when I was working in Milwaukee or in Brookfield, I bought this computer. That was my laptop, my mobile computer. It handled, 48K of RAM, right? That's all it could handle at the time. My boss didn't want me to get this computer. His name was Clarence, and Clarence said, don't buy it. We don't need personal computers. So on the weekend, I did Visitel Toulouse 123, if you remember that. He put it in his desk drawer, never believed it. When I went off to graduate school, that company, which just went public, made the most dense circuit boards in the world. It's called Automated Systems. They wouldn't move from mainframe computers, and they went under very quickly. They wouldn't change with the times. Today, 30 years later, anyone can learn anything from anyone else at any time. Antarctic researchers are sending stuff to kids in the schools in the Philippines. Centenarians in nursing homes are mentoring kids in schools. At the time I went to graduate school, Steve Jobs had been fired at Apple, and Scully took over, not from the X-Files. And John Scully from Pepsi-Cola, and he said, we need a vision of the future. And they created this vision of the future called the Knowledge Navigator, which had basically the ideas of the iPhone and Siri. And it had video conferencing and web conferencing and intelligent butler. This is still up on YouTube if you want to impress your spouse tonight, or your kids, or your friends. Go to the Knowledge Navigator. They predicted the future. For $60,000, they put a video together for EDUCAUSE, 1986. Today, the world is changing. It's more informal, more video-based, more ubiquitous, collaborative. Sorry for my signer over there. Self-directed, global, mobile, open, and massive, and much more. I'm going to go through 30 ways that learning is changing today. If just one way it had changed, it'd be a revolution. If just one person learned online in 1950, that person would be Time Magazine's Person of the Year. But today we have millions of people learning that way, and we just yawn about it. My mother reads it, front page news, in the Milwaukee Journal or Sentinel or USA Today. Now we're learning from our mobiles. We can take a MOOC on biology or in arts or in computer science right on our mobile devices. Smartwatches. How many of you have a smartwatch? Great, I'm trading you now. I have that for just a little bit for demonstration purposes only. Ha 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 ha. Can you believe me? Okay. So we have these smartwatches wrapped around us, so mostly for probably organizing meetings, I hear. Most people use them for meeting purposes, scheduling, and that kind of stuff, right? So they become in handy. They become your digital assistant or aide. That watch is only worth $2, by the way. So, you know, we can now have technology wrapped around our bodies that gives us access to education wherever we are. We're learning all the time, you see. Problem is, some of us become so addicted, we're checking our email constantly, and there's a new addiction called nomophobia. How many of you would feel a little distraught if your mobile phone wasn't working right now? Or if you had low battery, would that scare you? Nomophobia. When I was in Hong Kong a month and a half ago, they actually had an article in the paper there about people who are walking in the subways as zombies. You know, and someone being hit by a car because he was... Now, apparently in the U.S., during that time, a month and a half ago, someone was attacked by a bear. While he was checking his mobile, a bear came up to him. You got to be aware of your environment, I guess. Now, learning is more flipped. This accounting professor retired in Utah, Brigham Young, and his videos, his lectures are being used by... By the way, I'm just going to put this in my pocket conveniently. His lectures are being used by new professors starting up. Thanks to Solomon Kahn and other people at the Khan Academy, you now have something called flipping the classroom. You watch the contents beforehand, and you come to class for problem solving and decision making and case learning. Learning is more video-based. If you go to my homepage under web resources, you'll find 80, not just YouTube and TED Talks, 80 shared online video portals in addition to YouTube and TED Talks. Lynda.com is what we use at Indiana to teach about Excel or whatever tools you want. And Lynda was just bought out, there's Lynda, get to know her, she was bought out $1.5 billion by LinkedIn. LinkedIn's going to create Lynda-like experiences for you. You're going to take classes in LinkedIn in the near future if you're not already doing so. This is called, What Do You Want to Learn Today? Their tagline, what do you want to learn today? Lynda.com, out of Santa Barbara, California. A woman's real name is Lynda, who started this little shop. People are using her around the world. One person can make a difference in the world. Lucifer Chu, Lynda, other people are making a difference in the world. This kid, last week, this was April 5th, someone sent, my friend from India sent me a note, said, did you check out this guy? World junior champion in golf, almost won, 3 majors, he won 2. How did he learn to golf at age 10? The sugarcane fields of India, of his village, and YouTube videos of Tiger Woods. That's how he learned to golf. Online YouTube videos, self-directed learning. We're moving to a self-directed learning age. Elliot Macy has an annual conference in October called Learning. Highly recommend his conference if you can afford $2 million. No, it's a great conference, Elliot. A little expensive for those of us in higher ed. But fascinating when you go to this, you see these gigantic video walls. Gigantic, and that's what we're going to see in cafes and at Barnes & Noble and grocery stores. We're moving to this video age. We're moving away from Wikipedia to Videopedia. Okay? In Indiana, we have an IQ wall. In our cyber infrastructure building on 10th and the Bypass and in our hyper building, Larry, we have this IQ wall where you can bring in experts from around the world. And I did this as a final week in my class. The people we read about, we brought them in. We're going to see these in universities. We have the largest curvature tiled wall in the world from a single projector. Stanford has something similar as well. I didn't mention right at the beginning, I'm going to give you all, I'm not going to talk much about what to do with technology. That's this afternoon. I'm going to actually embed in this talk 100 things you can do in teaching with technology. You have to catch it. There'll be one place you're going to get 100 free ideas on what you can do with technology. Anyways, we're moving to touch screens. Remember that Knowledge Navigator used touching. If I had shown the videos, touching it in 1986. This was a vision. Now we're doing it today. And game-based learning. Learning through challenges. Learning by having your scores posted. Learning from simple activities to more complex ones. Game-based learning, making it more fun, more motivating, more inspirational. We see this happening. We also see learning becoming more immersive, whether we're working in a military organization or we happen to be at an NBA basketball game with cheap seats and we put on these goggles and we can see what someone in the expensive seat sees. And the NBA is experimenting with this right now. Or if you're trying to order something in a grocery store and you want to get reviews of other people, you can have augmented reality, put your mobile phone over the top of the barcode and get people's reactions to that product. This is out of Korea. Or as a doctor, to take a look at some medical records of someone with your augmented reality glasses and see. Or as a driver of the Cooper Mini, X-ray vision to see outside. They have cameras outside the car to tell you if you might hit a pedestrian or someone's coming in your blind spot. Augmented reality glasses are coming in the near future. Google Glass didn't work out so well. They're still testing it. But Cooper Mini has come up with something that maybe is going to replace that. Looking at art in new ways, for instance, with your augmented reality glasses, pop-up art. Number 8, learning is more collaborative. When we brought this woman in from Beijing Normal, she sat in my class for free using Google Hangouts. Google's outside, in the Great Firewall of China has banned it, so she had to use a proxy server. She came in, and my students from around the world welcomed her in. She came in for free, and she shared what they were learning at Beijing Normal with my students. We went back and forth, just popped in. I had guest speakers every week in class, and at the end we'd have a Google Hangout discussing what we did, discussing their ideas. Learning is more collaborative when we can have wikis. My students have done wiki books and written books together, but when we can have students brainstorm ideas or abstracts for articles using a simple tool like Pirate Pad, Meeting Words. There are a number of tools in addition to Google Documents that let you collaborate online much simpler than Google Documents. Worth trying, and free, by the way. Social. We know from Vygotsky, the social psychologist, the educational psychologist, we learn first on a social plane and internalize things. Facebook has built Facebook rooms. You can have a room on winemaking, a room on beekeeping, a room on whatever topic you're interested in. Moving from that social space. Learning's become more social and more adventurous. My friend Aaron Deering, from the University of Minnesota, where they talk Fondy up there, he has adventure learning, and he goes off to the Baffin Islands and Greenland and so forth, and he has interactivities with kids around the world on his adventures. He's got a website called Earth-Ducation, studying the climates of the world in Africa and Australia. And so he's looking at one project called North of 60 degrees latitude, trying to find out about cultures of the world. Right? And he's got a Twitter feed. And if you go to his Twitter feed, you can find out all sorts of interesting information from his adventures and what's happening in terms of pollution around the world or new laws that people are trying to pass to ban different activities, oil drilling or whatever. Learning is also more direct from experts. This gentleman from Iowa, and I don't know if anyone wants, is anyone from Iowa here? So no one ever wants to go to Iowa, that's right, because Iowa stands for I ought to went around. But this gentleman from Iowa has a lot of corn there. Good place. So this gentleman has a course you can take through Udemy. Udemy lets professors put courses on the web and get a little extra money in the summer. Experts are around this all the time. There's another tool called Noodle, which you can get someone to give you help on taking a GRE or SAT or things like that. And the Expert Cafe. We're moving to an age where experts are around us all the time. We can tap into them at any moment in time. We're also moving to an age of more synchronous learning. A week before I went to China, I did a synchronous session using Adobe Connect from my dining room to finance people. None of them paid attention, as you finance people in China. And actually, I did meet some folks when I went there a few weeks later about the session. Adobe Connect is one tool. Other tools, Zoom is a tool we're testing at Indiana right now. GoToMeeting, other technologies. This gentleman, my friend here, Edgar Leon in Puerto Rico, does sessions every week to the Middle East. Here we're doing a session to Azerbaijan from the School of Education a couple of months ago on language learning. Global education, synchronous education. Students want a sense that you care about them, so not just async, but I have a weekly optional synchronous session with my students. They don't have to come, we record it. If they don't have time, they can watch it later, they don't have to go. Learning is also more immediate. When something happens in the Middle East, whether it's terrorism or something else, some books get automatically updated. Learning becomes immediately in their books. Learning is also more resource-rich. When we find out, again, apologies to my Simon, when we find out that there's a new gigantic lemur found in Madagascar, we not only have text information from CNN or the BBC, we have pictures, we have video, multimedia, dual coding theory from Alan Gavio, which Larry will remember. We learn things through visual and text. It's more powerful. So when we find out a new missing link was discovered in our ancestry, we not only get the news article, we not only get the pictures and images and expert commentary, the same day we get the research article that comes out explaining it, if you want the more depth of this piece. Oftentimes they'll have the website go live, the book comes out, immediate science. We no longer wait 3 years for things to come out. The Public Library of Science, PLOS, publishes open access articles in chemistry and biology and other areas for free. Learning is more informal, donut-based learning. We're learning at a cafe, we're learning with our friends wherever we happen to be hanging out with them. And there's people watching this, by the way. All those of you, we have chairs, those of you who are watching out in the, having something to drink out there, there's chairs up here, there's open space. Well, we're learning more informally. 80 to 90% of learning is not formal, it's informal, self-directed learning, and that's what I'm researching. Learning is also becoming more competency-based. One of my students graduated from Indiana, went to Wisconsin. He wrote an article about how Wisconsin needs to adopt flexible learning, giving people credit for what they know. His name is Rovi Brandon. Well, the governor, it sat on a desk for a year until the governor got in some trouble, and also the governor was all in favor of it to get some favorable approval ratings. And he signed it. But we're moving to a competency-based so that give people credit for what they already know and move on, rather than sitting through classes of stuff, they have that content. We're also moving to on-demand learning. There's a company called Coursmos out of California, another Google-like entity, built by Russians. Don't trust them. On-demand learning, learning just in time, filming myself at the beach for 10 minutes, sending it up to the web and letting my students watch that clip about whatever topic I'm trying to teach that day. Learning is more hands-on. At Indiana, we're creating a maker lab. You've heard of 3D printers, the maker movement. They're finishing one up across the hallway from me. They're in the second floor. There's a maker lab that the learning science faculty are putting together. But now, today, kids are making things. Back in 1980, Seymour Papert had kids take apart personal computers. They were about 1985. $3,000 computers. Parents had heart attacks. Principals had heart attacks. And the kids were putting these, 386s, 286s, and 486 machines back together. But today, we've got kits for $100, the Keynote kit, and other kits, the Makey, where you can have a banana as a keyboard or a space bar, and you can have a player piano with a bunch of bananas. All sorts of creative and inventive things from this maker movement today. Learning is also more personal. I see I have 16 minutes on my 45-minute list. Learning is also more personal. And so we've got an age in which Bill Gates is predicting we're going to have Yoda in our backpack. We're moving to an age of more personalized, modularized, customized information. We're not there yet. But when Lucifer translates content free to the world in different languages, when Coursera gets a volunteer translation team to translate content to many languages for free, we're starting to personalize the learning process. So we're not just exporting English all over the world. We also have more communal-based learning. When you're learning from a massive class, you have no one to talk to typically. Well, today you can learn in a community with other people, chat with them, go to a learning center, meet an instructor, and other things. Learning is also more online. My dean, Gerardo Gonzalez, just stepped down as dean, but he was happy because online at all our campuses is growing. And it continues to grow, even with the problems of the for-profits. Across the U.S., online learning is growing. Last year was the biggest dip in their schedule because of the federal government clamping down on the for-profits and the loans and so forth, but it's still going up. Learning is more online at Starbucks. A year ago, Starbucks employees could get a free 2-year degree. Now, 4 years. Starbucks is offering all their baristas 4 years of anyone working there get a 4-year education from Arizona State. We're not talking University of Phoenix nearby. We're talking Arizona State, pretty reputable place. Learning is more modifiable. When I went to school, we couldn't write on the walls. Today, we have marker boards and glass walls apparently, movable chairs. We're starting to create clusters of collaboration stations. Wherever I go, I see new buildings going up, thinking about the learning inside. I think online learning has forced us to think about face-to-face learning in new ways. We're rethinking face-to-face settings because we see the flexibility of online now. We're saying, what about face-to-face settings for things that we want to socialize and collaborate and meet each other, like the University of Adelaide here, where I was 2 or 3 years ago. Every level of the building was a different kind of learning. Social learning on the first floor, individual learning on the second floor, one-to-one counseling on the third floor, team meeting on another floor. The students were given $42 million and said, let's make the space, come help us. The students designed the space with the faculty and with the engineers and other people. They gave them a voice and they created a space I did not want to leave. I did not want, they grabbed me to go to my next spot. I was hanging out. Elliot Macy said learning's also become more ubiquitous. We can have these iBeacons to transmit the internet signal wherever you are so that you can be learning outside on a patio, down the street, or in a cafe. Learning is also more instantaneous with Google Glasses. If there's a traffic accident happening, the nurse can check the records and tell someone there what to do, what they might do, or the doctor might interact. Learning is more instantaneous. We're recording it. This is being recorded and streamed. And again, thank you for the people watching outside there. There's better seats in here, but okay, save me a cup of tea. Learning is more free. Open access articles for kids and people in Pakistan or India. OpenStax College out of Rice is putting free textbooks up. Learning is increasingly free. Obama said, let's make 2 years or 4 years free. The last 2 years of high school, the first 2 years of college, to increase retention, get kids off the streets. This is not going to pass in his term, but this will pass at some point. This will come to happen, education being free for community colleges and having high school, the last 2 years of high school, to help people finish who have dropped out. And it will be expanding. And I'm part of this movement. I told you I'm going to give you 100 ideas in this talk. I've got 11 minutes left. This book is free to download. I wrote it, came out a year ago. About 60,000 people have downloaded it in the last year. The first one that comes up afterwards will get a copy. Actually, the first 2 people who come up, I'll give a copy to. You can download it at techvariety.com. We go through 10 motivational principles. There are 10 activities for each of the 10, or 100 total, and a variation of each, really 200 total. We go through tone or climate, encouragement, curiosity, relevance, and so forth. You can download by chapter or in whole, and if you're Chinese, it's now in Chinese up there as well. I also have 27 videos on how to teach online that my dean said, when Jack Cummings was associate dean, he said, let's make them free to the world. You can download these 27 videos and use them however you want. You can download them, share them, remix them. You can even sell them if you thank us. There are videos on how to give feedback in classes, how to manage an online class, how to handle plagiarism, how to do assessment, blended learning, all sorts of things, 10 minutes long each. They're 4 years old now, hope still relevant. Learning is more self-directed. Sugata Mitra, who won the TED Talk Award last year at $1 million, has created the Granny Cloud, where grandmothers in the UK give up 1 hour a week of their time to mentor kids in India. These kids self-direct their learning and ask questions of the grandmothers, retired teachers, along the way. Self-directed learning is alive and well in Cambodia, in Denmark. It's also alive and well here in the US with adult learners. If you look at the data here from Chief Learning Officer magazine this month, you see that baby boomers are the least satisfied with their jobs. You see that baby boomers are most likely to quit their jobs. You also see baby boomers are the most likely to do self-directed learning. No one is helping them to learn. This article is all about the fact that people who are more experienced are not getting the retraining and the retooling that they need. And they're not getting opportunities, so they're learning it on their own. I see I have 9 minutes left. Learning is also more global. When we have someone in a refugee camp in Kenya learning through the internet, he's taking a MOOC actually in one of the 2 computers in the refugee camp. We have teachers with a map saying the Skype classroom. Who are we going to Skype today and talk to? Last semester I had 15 guests in one of my classes that I taught from around the world, from Korea, and Hong Kong, and Canada. Learning is more open. When we have yak herders in Tibet learning English so that you can become an English teacher through Open Yale, when we have 80-year-old gentlemen from Texas learning from Western Governors University, learning's become more interesting and open. He promised his wife he'd get his degree, and he did. Some people are age 100 working on their degrees. Learning's more massive. This book is free. It's Teacher Experiences Teaching MOOCs. And this gentleman taught one at UPenn on mythology to 50,000 people from the Netherlands and Spain and India. Learning's become more massive and open. My friend Mike Farrick, who has a chapter in my new book, talks about global health initiatives and what he did for Ebola, because we needed to get education out there. So we created a MOOC on Ebola and what to do about it. And he has a huge subscriber rate in Western Africa. This gentleman here from Africa took 250 MOOCs and completed them all. So we worry about access in Africa. He actually found and was able to take 250 Coursera MOOCs. I had this unrelenting fear that this miracle of free access might evaporate soon. This was in the Chronicle a couple of months ago, in April. I told you that China has a MOOCs building. I visited this building in Beijing at the end of June. They actually renamed a building, this gigantic building, the MOOCs Times building, with all these startup companies in this high-tech area, the Silicon Valley area of Beijing, of China. And I had a chance to talk to the folks that were creating language learning companies and mobile gaming companies and lecture capture companies. So let's review. Learning is more informal, video-based, ubiquitous, collaborative, self-directed, global, mobile, open, and massive. Why don't you all say this with me? I'll say learning is, and we'll say more informal, okay? 1, 2, 3. Learning is more informal, video-based, ubiquitous, collaborative, self-directed, global, mobile, open, and massive. Thank you. And free. And free. There's 30 ways. That was just 8 of the ways. Keep in mind, there are 30 ways that learning's changing. Now, originally, this was going to be the book cover of our MOOCs book. And I'll put a MOOCs book up here as well. I'll give the first 3 people who come up will get a book. Let's make it the first 4 people. Okay. And they can't all be from the front row. 1 person from the front row.
Throw in that watch.
Throw in the watch. All right. Throw in the watch, too. This was going to be the cover, by the way. My friend Tom Rees at Georgia co-edited this. That was the cover. 5 minutes left here. That's my colleagues, Dr. Meany Lee, who graduated from Indiana, my colleague Tom Reynolds and Tom Reeves. We've been working on this for 2 years. We also did a special issue of a journal, and I'll throw that in there too. We did a special issue of a journal, just came out the same time as the book, of research on MOOCs. Well, learning's happening all around us. Even kitty cats and squirrels are learning online. We have this gigantic web of learning. In my book, The World is Open, I talk about this gigantic web of learning. What the heck? I'll throw in The World is Open book too. So we've got 6 books up there. So The World is Open, chapter 1, I say we should rename the web of learning. And we are, I think. But we're at a jumping off point today. Where are we going? Which way are we headed? MIT is going to have an announcement saying it's moving to modular learning, nano degrees, small degrees, certificates. This was in the Chronicle on Friday. We're at a jumping off point. It's a little scary right now. All right? Nano degrees. So I had people jumping in China, and I need everyone to stand up with me. We're going to all jump together. Come on up, stand up. We're at a jumping off point today. We're not really sure where we're going. I want all the women to jump with me on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3, jump. I'm sorry, you weren't supposed, that was the women who were supposed to jump. Okay, all the men. 1, 2, 3, jump. And everyone together. 1, 2, 3, jump. Okay, stay standing for a second. Because I also got people to lean. I got a fire for here. I need everyone to lean in the direction. We're going in this direction to the left. I need you to lean to the left with me. 1, 2, 3, lean. Okay, great. Okay, you have a seat. All right, just get your blood flowing a little bit differently. We're leaning to the left. We're leaning a little progressively. We're moving ahead a bit. We're not really sure where we're headed. MIT does think we're moving to more modular, individualized, customized learning environments. In my World is Open book, I map out 10 trends that are changing the world that spell we all learn. And these 10 trends are pervasive, whether it's the trend for mobile learning, number 9, or whether it's the trend for portals of information, number 5, or e-books, number 1, or e-learning, number 2. These things are intertwining to change the world of education today. And so I have this, we all learn, everyone puts their hands up like this. So actually, can I get everyone in the audience, I'll jump in here. Everyone just put your arms up like this. Still take a picture of everyone here. Great. Okay, great. The world is open. The world's wide open for learning today. I'm going to need everyone to say, we all learn with me on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. We all learn. Very trainable. Okay. So we're going crazy. That's me with my MOOC glasses on, teaching a MOOC from Indiana University a couple of years ago. In the MOOCing stance to teach these courses, but it's fun to teach a MOOC. I had 3,000 to 4,000 people in my massive class on how to teach online. I did the first MOOC for Blackboard. I wasn't a fan of Blackboard. I don't know if you're using Blackboard here, but they became my friends, actually. We had fun doing the MOOC on how to teach on the web. It's still up on the web. You can all go through it. It's off my homepage. So you got a free class, free videos, and a free book from this. So yes, I'm going crazy. When you teach a MOOC, you do go a bit crazy. I have 2 minutes left on my timer. Let me point out that in the talk, if you download the talk that I put up, there are 20 more technologies that I go through. I've gone through 50 ways that learning is changing. I'll mention a couple of them during the final minute or so. Among those is a new cardboard tool that Google's created that get kids into field experiences using their mobile devices. And I'll flip through a couple. Online study groups. Online language learning has exploded around the web, and I had a chance to go to Shanghai and meet this woman. I interviewed her for my World is Open book when she created Chinese Pod. She's now creating a tool called Open Language. And we had a nice chat about language learning in China. She is the voice of Chinese Pod. If you've listened and learned Chinese on the web, that was Jenny Zhu's voice. You learned. Learning is also more mobile apps my students are producing. More social books where people can write comments under a book. I mentioned that we're using Zoom at Indiana. Zoom is a tool where you can have dozens and dozens of people simultaneously chatting, not just 1-to-1 or 1-to-2 or 1-to-3. skip over some of these other ones here. I go to the end. This last one, I thought it might be a nice one to end with, a tool to make you happy. There's apparently a new device that you can wear called the Think device to send you good vibes or to send you energy. I hope with this talk I've given you some good vibes and given you a little bit of energy. I hope that this afternoon I can meet up with some of you. Maybe you'll be wearing one of these that you bought during lunch and had it delivered on your drone. But I hope that this gave you some ideas about the ways in which learning is changing and it's not going to go back to the way we had in the 1980s and 1990s. I wish we could put a moratorium on it, but I don't think that's going to happen. I'll give away these books after Richard talks because he's up next and we need to move to him. We're moving into a new age of Web Education 3.0. We're moving away from credit managing to being concierges and consultants and curators of knowledge. I'll talk about that this afternoon. My notes are up at trainingshare.com. My publications are at PublicationShare. There's a lot happening to change the world. Thank you for letting me be part of it here at Southern Illinois University today. And I'll give dozens and dozens of ways you can use the internet to teach from this afternoon. This was big picture. That will be in the trenches, and I hope to see some of you or during lunch. Thank you very much.